meditative. So good morning, and
Good
Happy
morning.
New Year once again. So, we are in January 2018, and as is tradition in Science of Mind churches, we typically talk about the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind textbook. Okay, you know the big book? It might be over there, I don't know, but the big book. So they started incorporating, they're going back even before the 4 chapters, and talking about what is Science of Mind. Well, we've had a full dose of it this morning already. I mean, Reverend Mykal read the Declaration of Principles, so that's what we believe. The songs that we sang are all about what Science of Mind is about. But I'm going to give you a little more information. It's going to be a review probably for a lot of you. Hopefully you'll get some new grains of wisdom, or some ahas, some remembering as we go on this journey. And how we're going to go through this journey is through the classwork that I did prior to practitioner training. Okay? So there are 4 classes that I took before going on to practitioner training, and they were foundational, treatment and meditation, self-mastery, and roots. So, from a show of hands, I want to just get an idea of classes that people have taken. So how many people have taken foundation? Okay. Treatment and meditation? Okay. Self-mastery? What's that?
That's like,
Kinda?
yeah, didn't quite finish it.
Oh, okay. So like a half. Okay. Okay, and then roots. Okay. Okay, good. So there will be some new stuff for the majority of us. So, Maestro, please.
Oh.
So, what is Science of Mind? So we've had a good feel of it this morning already. But I just want to add just a few other things. So one of the things is, we know it's a philosophy. Okay? And Earnest Holmes is our founder. And he had never intended for this to be an organized religion. Okay? It was a philosophy. It's a way of life. And so as we live the science of mind, it's a way of living. It's a way of being. Okay? So it's not necessarily what we're doing today, being in this room. But because it's such a wonderful and juicy philosophy, it became an organized religion. The premise is that there is just the one life, okay? That everyone and everything is God, okay? So there's nothing outside of itself. So there's not a heaven and there's not a hell. They're not places that you go. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and so heaven was definitely a place.
Yes.
And hell was another place that you never wanted to go.
Not to mention purgatory.
Oh yes, and then there's purgatory, because Catholics had the purgatory, which is the way station on your way, because you weren't quite ready for heaven yet. So that's where you went to purgatory. So babies that hadn't been baptized yet, and if they were to die before they were baptized, went to purgatory.
No, limbo.
Limbo.
Limbo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
I
just got
learned.
limbo.
They went to, okay. I learned purgatory, but okay, limbo works. That's a whole other place.
Yeah.
I don't know limbo.
Limbo had less. Limbo was a kinder, gentler version
Yes.
of purgatory.
Yeah. Right.
Did you ever get out of limbo?
No.
Okay.
Limbo was a lasting state.
Oh, okay. Didn't learn that. That's interesting. I don't
Yeah,
like
I
that.
remember that.
At least in purgatory you could get out.
Yeah.
But limbo, oh, that's very sad. Okay, so luckily, as religious scientists, we don't believe that. That's a good thing. Okay. So we believe heaven, hell, states of mind. You get to be that, and you get to have that right here and right now. So we have the whole idea that it's change your thinking, change your life. Okay? So, it's very easy, right? Just change the way you think. Ooh, yes. So, what I want you to do as we're going through this, because I've given you each our prayer request forms, I want you to think about one thing in your life that you would like to change. And it's your life, not somebody else's, not your relative, not your neighbor, not your partner. This is for you. One thing that you would like to change. Change your thinking, change your life. So what is it? You know, is it health? Is it prosperity? Is it love? Is it a better job? Is it a better home? This would be me. What is it? And jot it down, but I want you to jot it down in the positive. Meaning that, let's say it's health. So I am healthy, I am well. Okay? So if you don't have something right now, just think about it as we go along through the talk. Okay? Maestro, please. So, our journey is going to go through the classes that I've taken. Okay? We're, however, not going to start with the first class, which was foundation for me. We're going to start with roots. And the reason why I'm starting with roots is because the roots are the beginning. The roots are where things come from. So when you think about a tree or a plant, it's the roots. If you don't have good roots, you're not going to have a good plant. Okay? And how we're going to go through roots, we're going to look at Earnest Holmes and some of the people that influenced him. And I have some quotes by these people, and we'll just have a little discussion about them. Well, I guess I'll talk about them. Okay, next.
That was honest.
Well, we can discuss if you would like. So, there's Ernie. So, Earnest Holmes is our founder, and I picked some quotes for each of these people that I thought were just, that really resonated for me. The first one is, life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks into it. Okay, so we know this. It's the law of attraction. Whatever you think is what's going to mirror back to you. Okay? We believe that. The next one is, prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. Oh, so what that is telling us is that we can shift. And we are responsible, that we have choice, that we have options. Lovely. Next one is, love points the way and law makes the way possible. Now we're going to talk about the Signs of Mind symbol. For those of you that have taken the classes, this will be a review, and hopefully some things you'll remember. And for those of you who haven't taken the class, maybe you'll get some new information. So when we talk about love, there's a Signs of Mind symbol. If you remember, it's the circle with the 3 sections. And I have a picture of it a little later. So the top section would be where love lives.
Isn't this it right here on here?
Yes. Okay. There's a teeny tiny one on your prayer request form. Okay. Thank you, Suzanne.
You're welcome.
And Reverend Mykal is drawing us a picture. Okay. As Reverend Mykal perfects his circle, we'll go on. So the top section would be where love would reside. The center section would be where law is. And so basically what Ernie is saying is that love, that conscious mind, okay, is where, wait, okay, very good. So love would be at the top, law would be in the center. And basically, what they're saying is that because love is what you put in the conscious mind, law makes it happen, and voila, you have this wonderful life. Okay? Thank you. Next slide, please. Ralph Waldo Emerson was one of the people that Ernie studied. And Ralph was in charge of the transcendental movement in the 19th century. Now, has anyone ever read Emerson? Okay.
My mother did, but I didn't.
Okay. I found him very difficult, but there were these glimmers. I remember when we were taking class, they were saying, just look for the glimmers. And I was happy about that, because if I had to just had a clear understanding of everything, I would have flunked. So here are some glimmers from Emerson. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. So it's go where no man has gone before. It made me think of Star Trek. Okay? So go where no one has gone before. Go where you haven't gone before. Because it's all possible. It's all there. Okay? The next one. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. So what he's talking about there is, it's what's here. It's not this. Here, change your thinking, change your life. Okay? The third one, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment.
Yes.
So it's be yourself, be authentic. Not always the easiest thing to do, because as we went through our affirmation, we talk about personalities not having power over us, conditions not having power over us. So all these things can kind of shift you and make you think that you need to do something different. But be yourself. Thank you. So then we have Thomas Troy. Has anyone ever heard of him other than the people? Okay. So he was one of the people that influenced New Thought. Because we are a New Thought philosophy. Okay? And he was a judge, I think, before he became a writer. He looks very judge-like to me.
He does.
So the first quote is, desire will in due time externalize itself as concrete fact.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what he's talking about there is anything that we desire will, and remember, it's thought plus emotion create a belief. I've said this before. Thought plus emotion creates a belief. Okay? So beliefs are those things that are externalized, and beliefs would be at the bottom of the Signs of Mind chart, because those would be the external, okay, what we see outside. And so basically what he's saying is that anything you really want will eventually show up.
Is the flip side, if you put belief in there instead of desire, is that the flip side then? Belief will induce time? I mean,
Well, yes, you could put
bring
belief in there.
yourself into a corner with your beliefs and stuff, right? So
Absolutely.
we create our life.
Absolutely. So everything, it will eventually show up if you give it enough attention.
And then yes, thought and emotion.
Yes,
It has to be both.
thought and emotion. So it's the two together. So that's because thought plus emotion gives you a belief. So if you think about something long enough and you're really, really, really into it, which is what we typically call a desire, if you want it enough, it will show up. And I mean, and that works both ways. Meaning that if you think something bad's going to happen,
Right.
and you really think something bad's going to happen, guess what? Something bad's going to happen. Okay, it happens. Okay, the next one. We cannot really think in one way and act in another. Meaning that,
Authenticity.
what's that?
Authenticity again.
Well, it's authenticity, but it also, what it means is that I can't say I want to be prosperous and act from a place of lack. Okay? It's just not going to happen. Okay? The third one is we can gradually grow into any condition we desire, provided we first make ourselves in habitual mental attitude the person who corresponds to those conditions. Basically, we have to become the mental equivalent of those things that we want. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. And I like the mental equivalent because what that is, you know, everything starts in mind, right? And so therefore, and when we talk about fake it till you make it, you're tricking your mind because your mind is really, really smart. Because it wants to keep you stuck in the places that you are because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And it knows, now it may not be fun and exciting, but it's comfortable. Okay? And so that's why you have to change your thinking to change your life. Okay, great. Next one. Then we have Emma. Emma Curtis Hopkins. She actually was one of the founders of New Thought. And she is normally referred to as the teacher of teachers. Okay? And I love this first quote. The world will persist in exhibiting before you what you persist in affirming the world is. Yeah. Yeah. I thought so. I was like, ooh, okay. That one I probably need to put up.
Yeah.
Because it's like, ooh, okay. So you get what you put out there. You get what you think about. You get what you feel about. Okay? So the world will persist in exhibiting before you what you persist in affirming the world is. Woo. The next one. If God is your world, what have you to fear? Now, I was thinking as we were singing, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. And then we talk about I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. If we were really doing that, life would be so awesome. There would be nothing to fear because God is, in my mind, is synonymous with love. And so when you have love, fear doesn't exist. Okay? The third one, and I did a spell check, but I don't know what happened here. Wealth, that's not what it should have you. What you will look at into the science of spirit, you will see that your life is meant to be sustained by the science of God and not the science of matter. And so basically, again, it's going to, let's go to God and not go to the things, not go to matter. This is not real. This matter that we think about, you know, the chairs we're sitting on, the floor we're standing on, it's not real, it's God. Okay? Fabulous. So as we move on. So we'll move on to, next slide please, to foundations. Foundation is the first class. How many of you enjoy foundations? Okay. Wasn't that great for you?
I think I'm looking at it retrospectively.
Okay.
I had a really good teacher.
What's that?
I had Petra Weldon, Morgan Walden's husband David, and
Okay.
he was just terrific.
Nice.
Yeah.
Foundations was a great class, and you do this first because folks have this aha experience for the most part. And at East Bay, where Reverend Pamela and I attended, the foundation classes were huge. You know, they could be like 100 people in these classes.
Wow.
And it was fun. Reverend E usually taught the classes. And so it was just this mind-blowing experience. It was like, oh my God, you mean I can change my life? I'm responsible? Oh my God, it's amazing. And so that's why they do foundations first as opposed to roots, because roots is a little dry. Okay, you need that. You want to know your foundation as far as roots, but it's dry. Whereas foundation, you have a lot of exercises and you're moving through it and it's fun. Life is changing. There is a poem that I think is in the first chapter of the foundation classwork that I'm going to go through that I love that demonstrates life and the shifting of it. So get me the... And so it's the autobiography in 5 short chapters, and it's by Portia Nelson. I don't know how many of you remember that took the foundation class, but I love this poem. So chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. This person, victim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, next chapter. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Still victim, kind of getting a little more enlightenment. Next chapter. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I'm now where I am. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Okay? So we're starting to transform, taking responsibilities for one's life. Okay? Now the habit. So a habit is repeated beliefs. So remember, thought plus emotion gives you a belief, right?
Right.
We repeat the beliefs, it becomes a habit. And that's what it creates those neural pathways in your brain. So now when something happens, you automatically go and do this. And so you have to shift that and put in some new information in order to get a different outcome. Okay, chapter 4. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street, there is a deep hole in the sidewalk, I walk around it. Okay. And then chapter 5, I walk down another street. Okay, enlightenment here. It's like, oh, there's a new whole other way of doing things. Okay?
Actually, and chapter 6 is the Buddha, the Bodhisattva, who I go back to the street and fix the sidewalk.
Ah, okay. Lovely.
Nice of you.
So that is, yeah, is high enlightenment. So I love this poem, and actually Reverend Mykal, I sent it to him, and he'll send it out at the end of service. Okay? Next, please. So, 10 core concepts. Now, I don't know about you, for the people that took Foundation, how many of you have ever gone back and revisited the 10 core concepts?
No.
Oh, one person. Okay,
Well,
I haven't. I was like, oh yeah, that's right, there are 10 core concepts. And so this is like the foundation of what we believe. Reverend Mykal talked about he read the Declaration of Principles, what we believe, but these are our core concepts. This is what we're standing up on. Okay, so the first one is oneness. So that means that there was one life. There's not God up in the sky, which was always this man with this beard, even, in Catholicism, up there judging us. Okay? We are one with God, so there's just the one life. Everything is of God. Okay? We're good? Triune nature. There is a triune nature in God, and therefore a triune nature in us. And so what we have here is the triune nature. Spirit, soul, body, when we look at the Science of Mind chart. Okay? And so God has a triune nature. We have a triune nature. Okay? Third one is creative nature, meaning that we co-create with God. So this whole chart, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, is about how things come into creation. We follow that same pattern. Okay? Prayer. Everything is available. And the way we access it, according to our beliefs, is through prayer. Okay? Wholeness. That is our foundation. We're whole, perfect, and complete. Has anybody ever heard that?
Oh, yeah.
We oftentimes say that. I'm whole, perfect, and complete. If we really think about it, that's a really strong, powerful statement. And so that's what it's saying, that we are whole, perfect, and complete. Abundance. What we're talking about there is that everything is already here. We just have to tap into it. Okay? So it's not something that you have to go out searching for. It's here. Okay? Breathe. Everyone's kind of looking at me like, okay. The reciprocal universe. What you put out is what you get back. This philosophy believes that God is no respecter of person. And we can see that because there's certain folk, in the White House that we, may not be so happy with. But the same God that is here in us is there. Okay? What you put out is what you get back. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is a human principle. Okay? God doesn't forgive. Because there is nothing to forgive. Because remember, you're whole, perfect, and complete. But it's necessary for our spiritual growth that we go through this, that we forgive. Okay? The next is immortality. We believe that life is eternal. That these bodies, as lovely as they are temporary, but that's not the end all to be all. Okay? Once these bodies go away, we will continue on. Okay? And then the last one is the Christ as a principle. So when we talk about Jesus Christ, I always remember Reverend E saying, Christ was not Jesus' last name. Okay? It was a consciousness. He had achieved the Christ consciousness. And this is the Christ consciousness that we all have within us and that we can all attain. Because remember, Jesus said, far greater things will you do. Okay? So it's not like, we don't believe that Jesus is the only Son of God. Okay? We are all God. Okay? Good? Thanks. Next. There we have a kind of blurry slide of the science of mind symbol. And it's the same as what Reverend Mykal drew for us on the board. So basically, why it's a circle is because it's eternal. It's ongoing. Okay? That's what life is. It's ongoing. The V is spirit going into form. So when we talk about the creative process, we start at the top and come out at the bottom. And the triune nature, if you see the three parts of the circle, okay, is that triune nature. Now, the top part of the circle is, typically we call that conscious mind. That has volition. That's where the thinking happens. So at some point, we thought a thought. Okay? The center section, we call it the soul, if we're doing the spirit, soul, body. But it's also where the law. When you hear, I'm releasing my word into the action of the law, that's where it's going. It's that center section. That center section has no volition. It does what it's told. So that's what where your subconscious mind. So when we talk about conscious mind being like 5% and subconscious mind being 95%, that's where all the stuff is happening. For those of you who cook, who cooks? I'm not a cook. Okay. So you know you have a recipe, right? And so that recipe would be what's in that center section, the law. Okay? So if I say, okay, I want to make an apple pie. And I pull out a recipe for beef stew. What am I going to get?
Beef stew.
Beef stew. So regardless of how much I want an apple pie, I'm going to get beef stew. And so that's basically what we're talking about here, is that if you put in love and you have love in that center section as your way, your pattern of being, you're going to get love as the outcome. And oftentimes what you'll hear, what we use here is seed, soil, plant. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. So basically the seed would be at the top. So I plant an apple seed. The soil is in the center section, so that's nurture all the nutrients, and it's growing this lovely seed, and then I'm getting a plant. So again, if I'm planting apples, and I want oranges, I'm going to get apples. Okay? Clear?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Next, please. So, that was foundation in a nutshell. I love it. Foundation in 5 minutes or less. Okay. The next class we're going to talk about is treatment and meditation. In foundation, we were introduced to the idea of treatment. We were introduced to the idea of meditation. We were introduced to the idea of affirmations. We were introduced to the idea of prayer partners. Does everybody know what all of those are? Okay. So, in treatment and meditation, we went into a deeper study of these elements. Next slide, please. So, in meditation, there are so many different types of meditation. I just have a few here. But one of the things, meditation quiets our mind. Because Spirit talks to us in that still, small voice. And sometimes we have so much racket going on in our minds that we can't hear it. Or we slap it down. Has anybody ever slapped down? You get this intuitive hit and you just kind of backhand it? Okay? So in meditation, however, it allows us to quiet the chatter and to be with Spirit, to commune with Spirit. Reverend Mykal did our meditation this morning without any music, which I remember Reverend Francione telling us that true meditation is done without music. Because it gets the mind, because music gives you something to focus on. And this is a song that you really like, you can kind of be with it. But when it's quiet, you really are with yourself. Okay? So we have like contemplation type of meditation, where you're contemplating a thought. A mantra, where you're repeating a word or a phrase, just so that becomes your focus. Guided meditations are where someone's leading you through a type of meditation. And then there's walking meditations. So you can move and still be in a meditative state. And really, I mean, that's what yoga, I mean, I know a lot of times people do yoga for exercise, but yoga really is a type of meditation. Okay? And so it's very necessary in our lives. How many people meditate every day? Ooh, lovely, I love it. Yes. Next slide, please. So treatment. We have 5 steps in treatment. Now, what is treatment?
Prayer.
It's prayer.
Affirmative prayer.
What kind of prayer?
Affirmative.
An affirmative prayer. It's scientific. Why is it scientific?
Because it works.
Because it works, and it works for everybody. And it doesn't care who you are. It works. Okay? Now, affirmative prayer, meaning what?
We pray for what we want, not what we don't want.
Exactly. Now, there are denials. Have you heard of denials?
Yes.
So denials basically are affirming, you're looking at what you don't want in order to get what you do want. Reverend E, who's our minister down at East Bay Church, there was a woman that she said was the most powerful treatment that she's heard. And the treatment was 2 words, what kind of 2 words? Taint so. Taint so. Okay, so treatment doesn't have to be all these 5 steps. Taint so, this woman was standing in her conviction of knowing that whatever the condition was not so. Okay? So, treatment is about shifting our consciousness. It's not about convincing God. We're not convincing God of anything. We're not convincing God that I should have a new home. It's about shifting our consciousness. Okay? There are 5 steps in treatment. First step is recognition. Recognition that we're knowing that God is all that there is. Okay? That's all there is. Unification is we're one with God. And I would even say one as God. Okay? Realization is where you're putting in, and where people typically like this part, because this is where you're talking about what it is you would like to see your desired outcome. Thanksgiving, we're giving thanks. Now, why are we giving thanks? This is a real question. Why is this important? Why do we want to give thanks in this prayer?
Because that's a way of affirming that we've received what it is we're praying for.
Exactly. It's knowing that, because when you're standing in treatment, there's a knowingness that you have. Because you know you're one with God and that it's already done, you're giving thanks for it already happening. Release. Very important step. Very important. You're letting it go. You're not picking it back up. So if I go back to the seed, soil, plant analogy, if I were to plant the seed in the dirt, and I now am like, I'm wondering if that's growing. Let me go in there and check. And I keep uncovering the seed. What do you think is going to happen with the seed?
It's right.
Right. it's not going to grow. So that's what happens with our treatments. Why you may not see it working. Because if you find yourself worrying about it, or thinking about it, or doubting about it, guess what? You have just reversed your treatment. Okay? So you got to release it, and you're going to go about your day and being from that place of beingness. This is a philosophy of beingness. Okay? Now, you've also heard the phrase, treat and move your feet. Anybody heard that? Okay. So what that means is you go ahead and treat. You know that it's done. You released it. You're giving thanks for it. But when you're guided to do something, you need to do it. Okay? It's treat and move your feet. This is not a static philosophy. It's a philosophy of being, but it's also you are to do when you are guided to do. Okay, great. Questions? No? Okay. So, how many of you treat every day? Okay. Treatment doesn't have to be flowery and long. I mean, I happen to treat long. And it's nice to hear the words when they strung together so beautifully. I mean, there's certain people that I just love to hear treat. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's not about the words. It's about the feeling behind the words. So here is an easy treatment. And there's a form that Reverend Mykal will send out after service again that has this on there. And it's actually from Edward's church when we talk about Edward. So, recognition. God is all there is. Unification. I am one with God. Third, realization. I accept and embody my good. And it could be the piece that you wrote down, that you just wrote down about what it is that you're shifting in your consciousness. Okay? Thanksgiving. I give thanks. And then release. I let go and let God. Very simple. Takes less than a minute. But it's the feeling behind it. Okay? So it's not just saying words. It's the feeling behind it. Yes, Suzanne?
I have another short one. God is good, so am I. All is well. Thanks. Goodbye.
That's perfect. Okay? So whatever works for you, but those are all examples of prayer. So it doesn't have to be long. Okay, next. So, the next class, which I love this class, Self-Mastery. It was actually the third class, but I'm having it as being our last slide because I feel like this continues on. The self-mastery is our journey. Okay, let me get the next slide. So a quote from Ernest Holmes is, "The mind of man is continuously unfolding into a greater recognition of its real plan in the creative order of the universe." Meaning that we're constantly unfolding. Okay? So, you might be wondering now why I gave you these pieces of paper. What we're going to do is we're going to do some treatment work. I want to talk a moment about treating for other people. Okay? We are going to pair up and we're going to have a treat for each other. And it could be this simple treatment, and let's go back to that simple treatment, just so people have that if you're not feeling comfortable. There we go. The one thing about when you're treating for someone else, we always include them in the second step, unification. So if I'm treating for Charlie, I would start with, I am one with God, as is Charlie, or something to that effect. Okay? So we include that person in the unification step. Okay? And then the third step would be something like, I speak my word for Charlie. and then I can say I accept and embody all of his good. The one key thing about treating for someone else, or even in your treating, you're not ever using the word you, because you're not talking to anyone. Okay, so if you ever, I've heard treatments where people say you. I have. And it always is like, they clearly did not take a class at East Bay Church of Religious Science. Because that was one of the things that it was just like, okay, no you. Okay? So it's not, you're not talking to God, you're shifting your consciousness. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. I'm seeing a few yeses. Okay. So, we are going to now treat for each other. And I'm going to partner you guys up. Okay? And what we're going to do is you're going to hand your sheet off to the other person. And that's your prayer request. And what we're going to do is we're going to pray for ourselves for the next 21 days. And we're going to pray for the other person for the next 21 days. Okay? So here's the accountability piece, because you're doing it for somebody else. Okay? One of the things that Ernest Holmes had said was to treat until you see it in the results. Okay? There was an example of he and his brother, is it Phineas? Fenwick? Fenwick. Okay, Fenwick had, they treated for this man for health and wellness like all night long. That's a pretty big feat in mine, because I tried doing something like that and it's like, oh my God, after an hour you're kind of like, okay. But you treat until you get results. Okay? So, we're now going to, is everyone clear about what we're doing?
Sort of.
Okay? Sort of. Okay, so we're going to pair up. And then we're going to treat for each other. You're going to hand them your sheet. And you're going to pray for them, and they're going to pray for you.
So is this the sheet on which we've written what we want to change?
Yes.
Once we have written what we want to change.
Okay, so now is the time to write down
Okay.
what it is that you want to see.